Buongiorno, Vario stick here. What are we going to be doing today? Well, I've just insured my motorcycle for the second time, which means I've had it just over a year. So I thought I'd do a kind of a user's 1 year on review of the bike. Now I'm going to divide it into two videos, otherwise you start getting a little bit too long. The first one's just going to be a general oversight with a few of the specifications relating to the bike and one or two of the initial bits, the controls and all the rest of it. The second video will be probably more about the seating position, the luggage that comes with it, and then we'll do a bit of a ride out. So probably a 2, maybe even 3-part video. Please join me and have a look at the Kawasaki Versys 650 GT. Yeah. Welcome to the Kawasaki Versys 650 GT. What differentiates this from a GT to a normal bike we'll come on to in a minute, but we'll get the spec out of the way first. It's a liquid cool 4-stroke parallel twin, as probably most people know. The displacement is 649 cc's. The valve system, it's a double overhead cam with 8 valves. Fuel injection. The front brakes are dual system of floating 300mm pedals. The calipers are dual piston Nissin I should say, not Nissan. Nissin pots, which we'll have a look at in a little bit more detail. On the back, we'll have a look at in a minute, as a single 250mm pedal disc, again with a single piston this time, but they are Nissin pots. 41mm inverted telescopic front forks with the stepless adjustable rebound damping on the right side and adjustable preload on the left, so fully adjustable front forks. The rear suspension is offset lay-down single shock with a remote spring preloaded adjustability. As I say, we'll have a look at all this in more detail in a moment. The maximum power is 51 kilowatts, which is 69 PS. I've had to look that up in British horsepowers, and that is 68 brake horsepower at 8,500 revs per minute. You can get a limited power version, a 35 kit I think they call it, which will be 35 kilowatts, about 48 PS at 7,900 revs. So you can buy one of these bikes on your A2, and when you take your unlimited license, then you can go back to Kawasaki and have the thing adjusted back to a full powered motorcycle again. So if you're going to go off-road in this thing, the ground clearance is 170mm. The fuel capacity is 21 litres. The seat height is 840mm. We'll come on to that in a minute. And the curb mass is 217 kilos. So for those of you who notice or know bikes, A, it's quite heavy, and B, it's quite high. But we'll look at that in detail in a moment when Dill leaves the thing alone. As I said in the beginning, this bike is the 650 GT. So what differentiates this bike, the GT, from the standard version which you're more likely to see? Well, there's a few things. Firstly, the top box. Again, we'll have a look at these in more detail. The side panniers which come with the bike. Also the tank protector there, and there's some lights on the front which are very, very useful, particularly in that kind of half light when your main lights aren't working particularly well. These throw a good beam right in front of the bike. These are the LEDs that you get on the front of the bike. They're controlled via a little button on the handlebars. These are standard, and as I say, they're particularly good. They throw a lovely beam of strong white light out, particularly in that half light when your main beam and your running lights aren't working particularly well. They're very effective. You can buy them as an additional extra for a standard bike and have them fitted or fit in them yourselves. I don't suppose it's that difficult, but they do come standard on the GT. As mentioned just a few seconds ago, these are the Nissin branded twin pot calipers on the front brakes with the pedal discs, one on each side, so twin discs. It's a good braking system. It's never let me down. It does tend to dive a little bit on the front forks, I have to say, and I'm not the first person to have mentioned that. but it is controllable, and the brakes are particularly effective. I do like them a lot. That's the Nissin branded twin pot front brakes, just a single pot on the back. This is the single pot on the back with its anti-lock ratchet in there. Again, pretty good for a back brake actually, I must admit. You know, you apply the brake there and the bike then slows down very quickly. So unlike a lot of bikes where the back brake is almost a kind of a useless piece of thing that hangs off the swing arm, on this bike I should say, with these particular Nissan, that's only a single pot on there. The brakes are particularly useful. You can probably see in there the adjustable forks, one for re-down, one for preload. Very simple to adjust really. You can have a play around with them. I have just firmed it up slightly. As I said earlier, the dive on the brakes can be a little bit alarming when you first apply them with some force, so I've firmed them up, but they do a good job now. Upside down forks, as is probably normal to be absolutely honest nowadays. They have really good reach these. Where we live, the roads are rubbish, so these longer travel forks are particularly useful. On the rear we've got one of these fairly standard type springs. There we go, nice Kawasaki green, and just to the left there is the preload only adjuster. You can get hard and soft. Preload only adjuster. Again, you can turn that and you feel it click, click, click. If you look in the owner's manual, it tells you how many clicks from one side right to the other, so you can set your own firmness on that. I have adjusted it, put a couple of extra turns on there, particularly as I quite often carry a pillion on the back of the bike. This, by the way, is the top box. It comes with that back protector or back pad. Mrs. Stick is particularly fond of that because she doesn't like just sitting on the back of a bike with nothing behind her, so this is good. Control surfaces, very much as what you'd expect really. Both the clutch, as you can see there, and the front brake are fully adjustable, which is really, really useful. This is a good honest motorcycle really, it's nothing overly technical. So the switch gear is what you would expect, high beam, low beam, and you can probably hear from that nice solid click as well. So when you've got your gloves on, you can feel that you've actually depressed the button. Same with the indicators, you can feel that something's clicked on there, and that's the hazard warning lights, which I assume is the same in every country now. On the other side, exactly what you'd expect really, starter, and again a nice solid click for your cutout. This here is for the front lights, the auxiliary lights. There's a little LED that comes on that shows you that this is on, but unless your ignition's turned on, it won't. They won't come on, so they won't flash in your battery, which is really, really useful. The display, dead simple, isn't it? That's what I love about bikes like this. You get there a speedo, kilometers per hour, your gear position indicator, and a fuel gauge. You don't really need any more than that. Okay, this has got all kinds of different oddos on it that you can set for range, for how much fuel you've got left, for how long it's going to be for your trip 1, trip 2, blah blah blah. But when I'm riding a motorbike, those are the three things that I need to know. What gear I'm in, how fast I'm going, and how much fuel I've got left. Nice and simple. You've got there the red ignition light, obviously. That there is a green neutral light. You probably just see the N there. And you've got the rev counter at the top. Nice and simple, that rev counter. When you're riding along on the bike, it's the kind of thing that's just in your peripheral vision, so you don't necessarily have to look down at your revs all the time. If you're interested, then it kind of gets in your peripheral vision, particularly useful. A word of warning: previous models didn't come with a gear position indicator. There was looked like a little LCD thing that fitted in there that told you what gear you're in. Okay, you don't need a gear position indicator, do you? You should be able to ride without one of them. But if it's useful, then you can buy an aftermarket unit that fits in there. If you buy an older model that doesn't have the gear position indicator in the LCD control, you might just see that yellow. As it goes darker, that becomes even more apparent. The good thing about this LCD display, though, I have to say, even when the sun is as bright as is shining on it, it's very, very clear. Very, very clear indeed. So you just spin that up, it's in neutral. Makes a great sound. The other port, you've got that one for the gear position indicator if you need it. There is one there, and I believe the wiring's behind there if you want to put some kind of charging device in there, be it a cigarette lighter or USB. Be warned though, I have seen people do this before, particularly with the hand guards, and as you swing this round here, you're turning right, it just swipes off whatever you put in there, so be warned about that. You need to be a little bit careful. Oh, this is the other thing that comes with the GT as well, these hand guards. And they're great, they really do a good job, keep the cold off the back of your hands. I haven't got heated grips. To be honest, I think if you put heated grips on here, you could probably ride anytime, anywhere. Because the hand guards are good, but you do need the heated grips. I think that would be quite advantageous. Well, hope you enjoyed that. Back in a few days' time with a look at the luggage and the comfort of the bike, grab rails on the back, and just a chat about the height of that seat. 840 mils is quite high, and it's not the lightest bike in the world, so you need to make sure you're tall enough and your legs are long enough. So see you in a few days' time for the second part of the review of the Kawasaki Versys 650 GT. So this is a Vario stick saying ciao ciao for now.